Welcome to the Monday Markers program of the Battle of Homestead Foundation. This week, in fact, during the whole month of October, I have been talking about Indigenous peoples and their struggles. Today, I want to talk about Simon Girty, a very controversial figure who lived in Pittsburgh for quite a while, who early in the American Revolution decided to go over to the British side, become a traitor, because of his loyalty and affection for the indigenous peoples. I was very happy to have been supported Eric Marchbine's state historical marker proposal for the Squirrel Hill Historical Society, and I spoke at its dedication. The Girty family's story includes wartime capture in central Pennsylvania as children. Simon, two of his brothers, were called the Injun Girtys. Simon was adopted by a Seneca family who treated him kindly, while his two brothers were adopted by Shawnee and Delaware families. The brothers' captivity gave them a broad and nuanced understanding of the Native American perspective, while their fluency in key indigenous languages provided an effective bridge for communication between natives and whites. Simon Girty was a trusted scout and effective translator. He participated in several very important councils and treaty meetings between indigenous peoples, the British, and the Americans. The American rebellion in the coastal cities against British rule concerned taxation, trade, and representation. But in the West, the central issue was the British enforcement of treaties made with native peoples that forbade white settlement north of the Ohio River. In 1778, Simon Girty left American service at Fort Pitt with Alexander McKee, former chief Indian agent who, with a Shawnee wife, was also sympathetic to the Native Americans' plight. The Girtys and McKee represented the interests of the fur traders who lived among the indigenous peoples and made their living by trade, a relationship that was symbiotic and not imperial. They distrusted and feared the land speculators and empire builders like George Washington, whose goal was relentless expansion and cultivation. The Injun Girtys decided to side with Britain and not with the American Revolution, because they became convinced that it was the white power more respectful of Indian land claims and treaties, and therefore less of a threat to Native people's survival. Simon was a formidable warrior and was cursed as a renegade and betrayer of his race by the Americans. Superior technology, wealth, and a belief in God's selection provided many colonists certainty in their right to displace native peoples, even enslave or exterminate them, with impunity. Straddling the two worlds of indigenous resistance and imperial expansion, Simon Girty experienced the full range of moral and political complexities as the drama of the American Revolution played out on the frontier. His commitment to the survival of his former captors and their way of life demonstrates an extraordinary sympathy, sensitivity to the dilemma of Native peoples. Another Pittsburgher who more gently crossed the hard divisions between whites and indigenous peoples was Johnny Appleseed, whose mystical appreciation of all life allowed him to pass boundaries freely and led him to warn both races of approaching attacks by the other. As our nation becomes increasingly conscious of institutional racism, of the enduring legacy of slavery, of the rights of indigenous peoples, and the continuing existence of genocidal conflicts around the world, the story of a white warrior for Native survival provides an opportunity to confront difficult issues in our history. The most powerful historical example of such a confrontation of conscience with social evil is the actions that John Brown and his family took against the institution of chattel slavery. In the Vietnam War, there was Hugh Thompson, U.S. Army major, who witnessed the cold-blooded murder of women and children at My Lai, confronted the killers, saved all the civilians he could, vigorously protested and reported what was happening to his superiors, stopping the massacre. Confronting Lieutenant William Cowley, he said, "These are human beings, unarmed civilians, sir." When hundreds of thousands demonstrate against racism, when statues honoring Christopher Columbus and Confederate generals are toppled or removed from public property, we see that the complex diversity of the American experience, rooted in our common humanity, is our absolutely most unique national asset. We are the only country with 100 different nationalities and ethnic groups in its makeup. We need human solidarity that transcends borders and races, extends beyond our own destructive species, in solidarity with life itself, and allegiance to Mother Earth, our beautiful sister, with whom we share our life. Recognize we must the genocide of indigenous peoples, the enslavement of Africans, and the shameful imperial adventures pursued in our name. But also, we must reaffirm our commitment to liberty and justice for all. The one law, the same law for rich and poor, for those we like and those we don't like, for the renewal and regeneration of the air, the water, and the earth. As the Seneca people said, think of the coming generations, of our families, of our grandchildren, and those yet unborn, whose faces are coming beneath the ground.